One loves KidVid, the other loves cooking. It's the DigiGods. And now, please welcome a guy with a life mate and a guy who's on J-Date, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Mark, that's the Oscar-winning music from The Omen.
Yeah, Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith. Hey, Corey, who sent us our intro for the Halloween show?
That was sent in by Mario Big Ass Mendez. He'll get it.
Yeah, he will. See, because Mario's brother did Big Ass Spider, and spiders are scary, so it's perfect for the Halloween show. Shout out to you, Mario.
Did you know that...
and to your brother, Mike. Yes. Did I know?
That James Horner briefly dated Jerry Goldsmith's daughter.
I did know that.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's kind of...
Was that part of like James Horner trying to like absorb the essence of Jerry Goldsmith and steal all of his...
I think he's trying to weasel his way into the gene pool. I don't know. That's very interesting. So yes, this is a Halloween show. We have a lot of junk. There's a lot of really bad horror, but we're gonna have fun with the show anyway. For starters, we also have a giveaway, and I might do that just right at the top of the show. Actually,
yes, Wade, let people know.
Okay, so we have a giveaway. I'm gonna do it right now. I'm going to talk about this right now. Why not? Just get this out of the way. So you're going to be sending... I'm not even going to talk about the movie yet. I'll just give all the details. Go ahead and email us at gods@digigods.com. Email us at gods@digigods.com. Now, admittedly, Halloween is more than a week away, but it falls on a Monday, and this show usually posts on a Tuesday. So... you got plenty of time. So make sure that we get our email dated no later than October 28th. Time and date stamp should be October 28th. Put Phantom in the subject line, Phantom, and then your name and mailing address in the body of the email. And 4 lucky people will win Phantom of the Theater for Halloween. Phantom of the Theater is from Wellgo. It is on DVD, not on Blu-ray. Just want everybody to know that. And this is a really, really cool Chinese thriller from director Raymond Yip, who previously did The Warlords and Iceman and a lot of other cool films. And it's basically it's a spooky haunted house movie done, Chinese style, and it's really actually quite cool. There are a lot of interesting ins and outs to this thing. Simon Yam shows up in here, which I always enjoy because he's in everything. Going back, 30 years, he's one of those Hong Kong actors who just always comes back, and he's always really good. It's just basically pretty easy. The storyline is very simple. It's a theater, and it's haunted because 13 years earlier there were a bunch of actors who were died in a fire there. So as always is the case with a haunted house movie, you have spirits who cannot leave the building until something liberates them. Nothing new there, but just a lot of really great style and some cool plot twists. And I think it's a really fun movie. Phantom of the Theater. So go ahead, email us at gods@digigods.com. Put Phantom in the subject line, name and address in the body of the email, and we'll make sure it gets to us no later than October 28th, and we will send 4 it's not going to get to you in time for Halloween, but it'll get to you in time to enjoy. So anyway, Phantom of the Theater. Thank you, Wellgo, for furnishing us a wonderful giveaway this week. So Mark, what are you going to do for Halloween?
What are
you doing for Halloween?
I'm still coughing.
I know.
I don't know yet, but I have a dream. One dream I have is to turn on the air conditioning. Can I turn on the air conditioning?
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
And then I will answer your question.
Yes. All right. Well, and meanwhile, I'll kick.
It didn't take long.
Yeah, whatever.
My dream.
Yes.
My dream for Halloween.
Yes.
When I was in Japan.
Right.
This is 15 years ago.
Of course.
I bought a kimono. And it has been my dream to attend a Halloween party dressed as a geisha girl.
Uh-huh.
I'd get full white makeup on my face, paint my lips totally red, put on the kimono,
right,
wear the sandals, and go and maybe put a little thing in my hair and go as a geisha girl. I've always wanted to do that. This may not be the year for that. In fact, this is not the year for that.
I'm going to guess it probably isn't. So we have a really nasty gore fest here. If you like gore, you're going to love this. The director of Cannibal Holocaust, Ruggero Deodato, produced this, and the director is Lex Ortega. The movie is Atroz. And it's a Mexican horror film. It's just really nasty. Not my style, not my speed by any means. It's in Spanish, of course. Not that matters. It's still just nasty. Doesn't have a language. But it's a serial killer film, and it gets into just some really horrible, just nasty detours. Just too much, torture porn and gore and all that. It's just nasty. Anyway, but it's one of those dual serial killer movies, and there are a few that kind of do that, where the whole point is that you've got not just one killer but two. Well, all right, fair enough. Twice the pleasure, twice the fun. Anyway, Atroz, Atroz, whatever. It's a thing. And then let's see here. We've got. Let's see, A Better Place. This is a little bit more of a normal speed for people. If you don't want your Halloween to be overly saturated in disgustingness, if you want something a little bit more bearable and you're having guests over, maybe A Better Place is a cooler film to go with. This is from Monarch, and it is more psychological horror than anything else. This is about a guy named Jeremy, who has the strange and unusual ability to extend pain and suffering to, if he's ever attacked, let me put it this way, if he's ever attacked, he's able to make his attackers' loved ones suffer. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Wow.
Yes, right. So, and it's it sounds like something you'd expect to find like an X-Men thing, or maybe like a metahuman on The Flash would have this ability. I don't know. Maybe it's like the empath, the opposite of the empath in that Star Trek episode, The Empath. Instead of absorbing punishment, you extend punishment. That's what it would be. Anyway, so he never really leaves the house, and then he does, and things happen. So check it out, A Better Place. It's an interesting little indie. Not bad. It's got it's got a thing going. And let me do another one here, and then I will let Mark delve into some strange and scary and unusual
crap.
6 plots. So this thing was described by Horror Junkies, which is a site I've never even heard of. This is their description of this, which is on the cover, and which I read, and I thought, what? I don't get it. How does that work? They called it Saw Meets Buried. And I thought, okay, fair enough, Saw Meets Buried. But Saw is one kind of film, and Buried is just a guy. It's just, Ryan Reynolds in a coffin, and it's a kind of a gimmick. How does that work? It's exactly what it is. So this woman has the unenviable task of trying to save her 6 friends who have all been buried in various locations around the city. And there's something different that is going to kill each one of them. It's like 6 deadly sins, 6 plots, whatever it is. So it is basically, it is Saw Meets Buried. It's a sadistic Saw experiment, but it centers around people who've all been buried alive in different and horrible ways. It's not funny in practice. It's funny to me in concept for some strange reason. Anyway, so she obviously can't call anybody. She's got, because they'll die. So she's got to go out and she's got to figure out how to save her friends. Is it well done? I guess it's as well done as can be. They didn't have a lot of money to make this thing. It maximizes its budget rather substantially. Leigh Sheehan, who directed it, pretty solid effort. So the movie's called 6 Plots. One of the more interesting Halloween type horror. It's hard to do anything new these days. So anyway, there it is. What else do we have, Mark? What's going to scare people this week?
Well, we have American Horror Story Hotel. It's scary because it's not that good.
Uh-huh.
Somehow they got this, Ryan Murphy got this amazing coup of getting Lady Gaga to play.
That was a great coup.
It really was. That came out of nowhere.
Coup. Yeah.
But the thing too is that it's safe for her because it's not like she's got to give a full-bodied emotional performance in a drama or something where you can really take a look at how good she is or isn't. this is a show where she can just dress up in crazy clothes and act weird, and there you go. So it seems like something that is in her wheelhouse. It doesn't seem like a big step for her, but good on her for going for it. The issue is that Lady Gaga is kind of all it's got going for it. I just feel like this season was a bunch of garish, shots and attitude and whatnot. I just feel there wasn't a whole lot of story there. I mean, it takes place in this hotel, and it's got a great cast. It's got Kathy Bates and Angela Bassett and Dennis O'Hare, who I love, and Sarah Paulson, who, of course, just won an Emmy for People vs. O.J. Simpson. But, visually it's great. They always have that very sexually suggestive key art that really pushes the boundaries that I always enjoy looking at. So it's full of images and pieces of dialogue that are crazy and out there and wacky, but I just feel like it doesn't really cohere that well as a complete story that with characters I'm interested to see. So I think there are better seasons of American Horror Story, although people will be intrigued by Lady Gaga.
Sweet. I have never been into this show, but the presence of Lady Gaga, I will confess, is something that I am likely to find interesting and compelling. I got a thing here called Masks, which is a special edition Blu-ray and DVD combo set, limited edition, 3,000 copies only. So this is from an interesting small company called Real Gore, and I think it's actually quite good, to be honest. It's a German film directed by Andreas Marschall, and he is. This is. I love reading the quotes on the boxes too because it's hysterical. So he is quoted as being. Here's the quote: Andreas Marschall is the German Dario Argento.
Oh no, I'm out.
Yes. Do you know whose quote that is?
Rod Brewington.
Jörg Buttgereit. I don't know who Jörg Buttgereit is. I'm not really familiar with Andreas Marschall, but apparently if you're German, this is like a big deal. This is a German calling another German the German Dario Argento, I guess. Anyway, here's the idea. So you got a woman. She's accepted to this Berlin Drama Academy. She's so excited. She's going to be a great actress. She's loving it. It's fantastic. Famous academy. And then, but something's not right. This stage school, not quite a deal. There's not something right. It's all wrong. And obviously there's a history of deaths at the school, and then things start happening, and there's like this wing of the school where no one dares go. It's the usual deal, right? It's usually a mansion. It's usually a haunted mansion that has all of those particulars about it. In this case, no, it's just extended to a Berlin stage school. No, plot-wise, there's nothing going on here except that you build up the suspense, and then you introduce horror and gore and jeopardy, and then the person has to escape, and at the end of it, hopefully, there's some kind of a sigh of relief and some catharsis. But it's well done. So I'm not going to go so far as to say Andreas Marschall is the new German Dario Argento, but he's got some chops and he can do some interesting stuff. So good on him. Some interesting stuff coming out of Europe these days.
Wait, what's not interesting is Fender Bender, although some people kind of like this movie. The conceit, I have to say, will be intriguing to folks of a certain age who are starting to grow up with Uber. The ride-sharing service, not the ride-sharing,
yes.
The taxi service, Uber.
Sure.
Because this one is about a guy who targets his victims by, there'll be like a little tiny fender bender. He'll purposely kind of hit your car just a little bit. You get out, you exchange information, and then when you drive away, he stalks you and kills you.
Yep.
It's sort of like an Uber driver from hell. So there's a little bit of topical juice going on there, which I guess gives it some interest to a certain audience. So that's what it's about, and it's okay. What are you going to say about these low-budget horror films? The conceit is okay. The only thing is that I don't think that this particular killer, as clever as it might be in the Uber era, I don't think that it necessarily warrants Fender Bender 2, 3, 4 as he continues driving around and hitting people and whatever. So if you like this kind of stuff, it's one of the. This is not really much of a compliment, but it's one of the better thrillers set on
Sure.
highways, like The Hitcher or Joyride or even Duel, which is kind of like the original one, the Spielberg film.
Yeah.
So if you're into that stuff, if the milieu, the idea of a driver on the open road who hits you and exchanges information and stalks you is interesting, which I understand, especially maybe you're young and you're just getting your first driver's license and what's it like to drive and how dangerous is it on the road. This might be kind of a fun little hour and a half at the movies.
Okay, we got some really unhinged stuff here. So we have Killjoy Goes to Hell from Charles Band. Charles Band still doing stuff. So, Killjoy Goes to Hell. This is from 2012. I know, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, Charles Band still doing stuff? Whatever. Full Moon, still there. So, Killjoy is an evil clown. And this is a courtroom drama. He's on trial in a hell, and he has to prove that he's worthy of being of entering hell. It's just so ridiculous. It's almost. It's not really scary in any conceivable way. It's just unhinged and very silly and modestly amusing. Then we also have Pretty Dead, 10 horror film compilation. If you just don't want to decide between any of the junk that we're talking about today. This is 10 films that you will almost certainly never have heard of, that they just decided over at Mill Creek, you know what, we're never going to sell any more copies of these, so let's just throw them onto a single collection and we'll be done with it. Monsters in the Woods, Sparrow, Pretty Dead, Occupied, Bunny Man is maybe the most famous of any of these, Backwater. Look, 10 really low-grade horror films that no one is going to buy independently. But if you're having a Halloween party, throw it on in the background. There's plenty of gore and effects and weird stuff in there to keep people interested. Then if you really want to go completely blue with this, Bayview has released Sex After Death, Paranormal Sexperiments. Nothing scary here. This is just really, really cheesy 80s era softcore wrapped up in evil and demonic storylines. It's pretty silly. It's pretty stupid. But you know what? It's 81 minutes that you could put onto your television during a party, and especially a costume party, and people will be either amused or horrified. This is one of my favorites. Bubba the Redneck Werewolf. Right?
I'm in.
Right?
I'm in.
Check him out.
I love him.
He's a redneck werewolf.
I like his hat. Just has just a random 3 on it for
and he's got that cigar, and he's got the shotgun and the pickup truck and the whole deal. He's Bubba the Redneck Werewolf. Again, ridiculous beyond all comprehension. The Bubba makeup is just the worst in the world. It's just a terrible costume. But it doesn't matter. You know, it just doesn't matter because he's basically a guy who's, he's a dog catcher who becomes a werewolf, and that's as much as you really need to know. Apparently, this is based on a comic book series, which I've never heard of, but if you're a fan of the comic, it'll probably have some kind of cachet with you. Let me throw another one in here before I throw it back to you, Mark. The Killer Shrews. The Killer Shrews, one of my all-time favorite low-grade exploitation films, in a double feature with the giant Gila monster. Killer Shrews and the giant Gila monster. This is also from Bayview, and both of these films have a cult following. They are from the late 50s, early 60s. A lot of just silliness here. James Best is in this thing. You might remember him as Roscoe Coltrane on Dukes of Hazzard. It's classic 50s, 60s era exploitation stuff. A lot of fun. You get both of them on one DVD set. Yes, they are both in the public domain. This looks as good as any you're likely to get out there. So thank you to Bayview for letting us resurrect these two horrible films.
Speaking of horrible films, The Mind's Eye. Now, The Mind's Eye is this is a real throwback to the low budget, trashy midnight movie type films of the 80s. I don't think that he knows that. I mean, I'm sure he knows that, but I don't know that he was necessarily trying to make that kind of a film, but it turns out he did. And it's got a very, it even evokes, all those telekinetic films, everything from Firestarter to, there's a whole bunch of them back then. It's about these two guys, these Zach and Rachel are their names, but not that it matters. They're born with there's psychic powers, and there's this doctor who wants to he wants to drain their powers and give it to himself so that he can kill people. And there's a certain trashiness to it, a certain low budget, fun throwbackiness to it that I guess if this stuff resonates with you, you might kind of get a kick out of. I just wish that in 2016 you could do something more with it other than just do a faded carbon copy of what other people did in the 80s. So, I like the fact that there's some kind of cool effects in it. It's not particularly well shot. It's very low budget looking. So yeah, I mean, the mind's eye, you've got to really kind of groove on that kind of early 80s midnight slasher film horror stuff to get a kick out of it. I certainly didn't.
All right, and then we also have from Wild Eye releasing The Neon Dead. I'm sorry. The taglines on these things are the best. Mark, read the tag.
A grin from fear to fear in a world.
I don't know who comes up with this stuff. It's just really ridiculous. So this one is touted. I don't even need to watch these movies. I just need to read the taglines and the quotes on the packaging because it's priceless, the stuff they find. So James Rolfe of Angry Video Game Nerd. What are these sites?
Is there really a site called Angry Video Game Nerd?
James
I'm going to look up for it right now.
Angry Video Game Nerd says it's a visual feast. Evil Dead meets Suspiria meets Ghostbusters.
Okay, let's somehow... I need a quote where we can put on the box that has the word Ghostbusters on it because people will think that...
Oh, my God.
It's Angry Video Game Nerd is an American comedy series.
There you go.
It's an American comedy retro gaming web series created and starring James Rolfe.
Yeah.
It's a joke. I think the thing is a joke. It's not even like a real...
Well, whatever it is. Not a valid quote. Who cares? So this is written and directed by Tori Haas, who does an audio commentary on here, which suggests certainly that they had a lot more fun making it than you're likely to have watching it. But look, hey, it's okay. I'm not going to be overly critical. Not a lot of money here. Most of these things have very small budgets. So the idea here is that you have a couple of paranormal exterminators who are hired by this woman to get the monster infestation out of her house, and that's it. It's basically it's Ghostbusters on a very, very small scale with a few good scares in it, and it's cheesy and it's cheap and it's occasionally funny, and I'm not going to take anything away from them. They clearly had fun making it, so you might want to give it a shot. That is The Neon Dead.
There's something in the Demolisher that I thought was kind of promising, although in the end it just winds up being another one of those films. Now, stay with me. It's a vigilante thriller, you could say, and it's about a cable repairman who is hunting down the members of the gang that attacked his wife and left her paralyzed. And so you're thinking Death Wish, and I don't blame you for thinking Death Wish. But there's an interesting twist on it, which is that this guy who kind of like starts to get a bit of a thrill from just tailing people and terrorizing them more than he does want to avenge his wife, he winds up stalking this innocent woman who had nothing to do with the attack on his wife, which I think was kind of an interesting twist. It was pretty well shot and has a cool score. And so there is something to the Demolisher. I almost feel like if it was a little bit better, it could have spawned a series.
Yeah.
But I would say that the Demolisher is really not bad. I mean, Death Wish, which doesn't really hold up, is really the number one film in that genre. But the Demolisher is kind of an interesting little low-budget horror thriller addition to the vigilante genre. So if you're into that stuff, I would check it out. I'm going to say it. I never thought I would say that, but it is true.
So small towns are where all this horrible stuff happens.
You were born in a small town.
No. So She Who Must Burn is from Larry Kent, who's formed a pretty good little collection of pretty good filmography out of low-budget horror films. Larry Kent, you know him almost certainly from movies like Bitter Ash and The Hamster Cage, don't you, Mark?
No? Oh, you kidding me?
Sure, of course. So anyway, yeah, it's a small town. It's meant to be a very, very obvious allegory for like Planned Parenthood and so forth. That you have this woman named Angela who is she's a medical crusader in a small town, in a small blue collar town, and there are people who wish her ill, and for all kinds of extremely religious reasons. And eventually they take their vengeance. It is, again, people should, if you're very politically sensitive to the subject and you don't want an allegory really shoved in your face, you won't enjoy it. But if you're just looking for some scares and some thrills, Kent does a good job. He's a capable filmmaker. This is a DVD-R. Very, very. I mean, it just adds to the whole, gritty, ultra low budget shot with a video camera in a back room, almost snuff film feel to this thing. It's called To Jennifer. That's the numeral 2, and then Jennifer. And it's a kind of somewhat meta thing about a young filmmaker who gets an old buddy of his to make a sequel to this low budget film that he's already made. And when they get the actress, or when they're auditioning the actress to be in the film, things go wrong, and you realize that they just didn't have enough money to actually shoot a real movie. So but they make the best with what they have. I mean, if you want a kind of a, I don't even want to call it a found footage movie. It's like. It's an interesting idea, a casting audition, an audition tape that captures, mayhem and madness and everything goes crazy. Very simple idea, but I don't know. It's got a snuff film quality to it. It's almost more funny than effective. Carry on.
Speaking of snuff films, I almost wanted to kill myself after watching Satanic. Now, Sarah Hyland is on Modern Family, right?
I guess.
Modern Family?
I've stopped watching that show.
I don't know why the F she wants to do crap like this. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, Sarah
Paychecks.
Hyland.
Paychecks. Look,
she's on it. She's. You know what? Stop for a second. No, don't stop the recording. I'm going to look up how old is Sarah Hyland. Sarah Hyland. Okay. Sarah Hyland was born in 1990. So she's 25 years old. Okay. She's on Modern Family.
Yeah.
She's got mailbox money for the rest of her effing life.
Sure.
Why the hell you would do Satanic, I just do not understand. I guess it says from the producers of The Walking Dead, so maybe that was an enticement. But this is just garbage, and it's about these college kids, and they're going to Coachella, which is the music festival in the desert here in Los Angeles, outside of Los Angeles. So they decide to stop in L.A. and check out some of the occult stores, and they wind up being stalked by an actual occultist. Oh my God!
Yeah.
If you want to see this movie done, it's not quite this movie, but it reminded me of it. Go rent Green Room. Green Room is the Patrick Stewart thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That is the same kind of story done in a way more professional, adult. We're actual filmmakers. We're actual performers giving a performance kind of a way.
Yeah.
Just Satanic is just like, are you kidding me?
So we got another DVD-R here from the Sector 5 people. And this one's also super, super low budget, as these all are, because it's DVD-R. They can't afford anything. But it's better than an audition tape. It's called And Hell Awaits, which is about this lieutenant, this retired police lieutenant, who winds up in this very bizarre kind of crossover, I don't want to say near-death experience, but crossover between the other world and our world. I mean, it's cheesy and it's low budget and it's not well acted. It's pretty well executed, considering that they have next to no resources. They obviously had a little fun with it. So, I mean, this is one you can have more fun with. I gotta kind of give props to this. And Hell Awaits. It's a little bit of fun, especially they spent nothing on it. These things cost nothing. They pay their crew with like food from Subway.
There's a film written and directed by a guy named Frank LaLoggia.
Yeah.
Now, it's not Frank Langella.
Oh, okay.
And it's not Robert Loggia.
It's Frank LaLoggia. Is he the love child of
I don't know.
Robert Loggia and Frank Langella?
I do not know.
All right.
But it's not bad. It's from 1988. I had not seen it at the time, although I'd heard of it because look at does this not remind you of like, didn't Flashdance have a similar
I
one
think
sheet,
so.
right?
Yeah.
With like the
perhaps.
white scripted lettering of the title
Yeah,
and a lot
yeah.
of darkness there.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Wait,
Looks very
you
Flashdance.
talk about something else. I'm going to look this up, which of course
Okay.
our listeners will never appreciate because
No.
they're listening to this. But I'm just curious.
We previously talked about the Invoking 3 Poltergeist Dimensions, and that's been re-released to take advantage of the Halloween moment. So this is actually not bad. This is a better than most low-budget horror film. It borrows a lot from obviously Poltergeist and from The Ring, and there are a lot of recent and semi-contemporary horror film franchises that you see sort of evoked in The Invoking. But it's the whole idea of ghosts coming back. It's a little bit like Night of the Living Dead, except with ghosts. It's fine, perfectly adequate. I'm not that familiar with the Invoking 1 or 2, but I assume that we're in the ballpark here. So, bravo. And then the Inhabitants, as we wend our way down to the bottom of the barrel before we really get into some pretty cool stuff. There's some really great releases this week. The Inhabitants actually is quite scary. It's got a lot of good. The plot is better than the direction. Basically, this is from Film Rise. This was made last year, and it's one of those Amityville horror type scenarios. You have this couple who they just bought a bed and breakfast, and they're all excited, and they're renovating it, and then there's something in the house.
What?
And it wants her. So we've all been there before, but it's done by the Rasmussen brothers, who are very, very capable. And I think we're going to be hearing more from the Rasmussen brothers as we go forward. The movie is The Inhabitants.
Okay, hang on a second. Wait. You know what? I must not be thinking of the right movie because I grabbed. Here, move that.
Yeah.
So I grabbed. There's the Lady in White. This is not what I thought it was. I thought Flashdance, and then I thought maybe it's Birdie. No, there's a movie I'm missing that looks like this. Looks like that one sheet.
Well, it's I know what you're talking about. It might have been Birdie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
okay. Here's the thing with Lady in White is that it's a bit of a forgotten film. It's a good film. It, with the standard of the genre now, it doesn't necessarily hold up 100%, but it was surprisingly well received at the time. It's Lucas Haas plays this kid, and he gets locked in his school, one of the closets in his school for the night. These kids play a trick on him. And so while he's stuck in the school, he sees a ghost, and the ghost is of this young girl who was killed by a serial killer, and this is her ghost. So the kid and the ghost decide to try to, find this killer who had killed other people also in this little town that they live in. So I had remembered this film at the time, and then when I rewatched it, I remembered it a little bit more. It's got a good sense of place. It takes place in the early 60s. It's very much depends on style and tone more than it does, boo moments, which might turn off, modern audiences.
Sure.
But it's a pretty complicated story, which I like. It's not just like, oh, there's a killer, let's kill him. And that's not it. And it's more than that. The special effects are a little bit dated. I like the ending, bit of a cliffhanger. So, The Lady in White is a good adult thriller, kind of horror-y, ghost story thriller. If you feel like you've seen all the low-budget crap that we're talking about today,
Totally.
check out something that's kind of forgotten and is now being rediscovered, and it's pretty cool, The Lady in White.
I got a couple about the scary forests. One is called Girl in the Woods, or just Girl in Woods. The other is The Devil's Forest. So Girl in Woods, not bad. It's kind of like Repulsion in the Appalachians a little bit. There's a woman who finds herself stranded after tragedy. She's in the Appalachians, and it's a survival story, but it also is about her psychological deterioration over the course of this survival story. which gets into repulsion territory as her mind comes apart and what sort of enters her world literally and figuratively as her mind detaches from it. Made for very little money, as most of these are, but actually quite well done. Jeremy Benson is the director. Look for his name in the future. He will continue to do more. And then The Devil's Forest, low-budget film shot in Romania, based on the idea that I don't know if this is even true or not, that there's a part of the Romanian forest that has a history of being a place where people and things disappear. I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously they got a tax credit from Romania, so they shot there. And they made the best of it. It's a little bit Blair Witchy, but otherwise perfectly fine. That's The Devil's Forest. And that's all the really junky stuff this week. Now we can get into the kind of little higher end stuff. And we've got some kid vid here. Halloween kid vid. Nope. There is some stuff, not just creepy stuff for adults. There is creepy stuff for kids. And naturally, one of them is Welcome to Monster High, the origin story. So if you like the whole Monster High thing, this takes us back to how it all began. I'm not really into Monster High. A lot of kids are. This is perfectly fine, totally acceptable. Blu-ray, DVD, ultraviolet. We also have Howard Lovecraft and the Frozen Kingdom. Isn't that lovely?
No.
This is when H.P. Lovecraft was a little boy. That's what it is. This is CGI animated story of Lovecraft as a little boy. It wants to kind of get into Tim Burton territory a little bit, but it's sort of afraid to go there. This is on Blu-ray with DVD and digital download, not ultraviolet, but just regular digital download. So you'll have to make do with whatever format that comes in. It includes a featurette and an audio commentary and is otherwise perfectly fine. Christopher Plummer and Ron Perlman and Jane Curtin are among the vocal talents. Perfectly fine. Nothing terrible here. It was enjoyable. Good for Halloween. And then the last one for the kids, which I think is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard, is Saban's Power Rangers Dino Charge Rise Spooktacular Halloween Edition.
Sweet.
Oh my gosh, look, Mark, he's got a pumpkin.
Oh, that's not just a pumpkin. That pumpkin's going to kick your ass.
Yeah, that's right. And point of fact, there's nothing Halloween-y about this. It's just 4 episodes and then a Halloween special on it. But they package this to give it a Halloween flavor and obviously try to sell more. So be aware of that when you see this. If you see it on the shelves or you see it somewhere, it's not very Halloween-y. It's just a marketing ploy. And that's what they often do. On DVD and on Blu-ray is Corpse Party. Corpse Party is actually pretty good. This is Japanese horror. It's not quite J horror, I don't want to say. It doesn't rise to that level, but it has a certain low budget Japsploitation quality to it. I hate that word. It's like Ozploitation. It doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
Plus, it starts with the word Jap.
Yeah, which is typically a slur unless
Yes.
you're talking about Japsploitation, which is a legitimate word like blaxploitation. So I mean, it does discuss it does reference a certain genre. Yeah, this is one of those things that what these low budget horror films often do is find a small contained location that serves as an excellent excuse to do something horrific. So it'll be a basement or a haunted house or whatever it is, a school. And in this case, it's a school. So, we use a school as a locale for an awful lot of so-called student bodies. As they say on the packaging, the student bodies are stacking up. I prefer the movie Student Bodies, which is an old 70s era.
I remember that movie.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It was directed by Alan Smithy. It was.
Who is that man? Why does he direct all these terrible
I remember
films?
seeing it. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world when I was a teenager. It just recently came out, on DVD-R. So, which makes me a little bit happy. But Malvert P. Red. I still remember that. Isn't that weird? A completely forgettable movie, and I still remembered, I remember lines from it. That tells you something. Anyway, Japanese teens are just as dumb as American teens, and you got a school that's had a lot of murders, and there's an alternate dimension, and things get very, very weird, and it's fighting ghosts and whatnot. Corpse Party, that's what it is. Don't expect for it to make much sense. It is what it is. It's got it's a pretty run of the mill ghost and haunted alternate dimension movie done Japanese style. It's worth checking out, but it's not top tier J-horror.
Now here's top tier.
There you go. That's the top tier.
This is what you're going to spend your money on this week. Trilogia de Guillermo del Toro from Criterion. This is one of the best Criterion releases of the year. This includes Kronos, Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth, which pretty much,
This is what you should get for Halloween. Bottom line, this is what you get for Halloween. This is our pick of the week for sure.
I mean, Del Toro. We don't have to tell you guys how great Guillermo del Toro is. He's the master of the, sumptuous, gorgeous, highbrow horror thing.
Yes,
and all of his movies are just replete with just myth and monsters and vampires and tapping into childhood fears, and there's so much going on with his films.
Yep.
That this really is a great, great must-buy collection. So, does every film look good? Yes, every film looks good. It's a great booklet. It opens up nice. It's got a little booklet with information on Del Toro and the film. Some of these extras you've seen before on previous versions of these films on home video, but Devil's Backbone has deleted scenes and a commentary by Del Toro. There's a scene-by-scene, a picture-in-picture kind of presentation, which is interesting, where he kind of narrates some of the sketches for the film. Pan's Labyrinth looks great. They all look really good. So, if you're a Del Toro fan, now I have, Pan's Labyrinth already. Devil's Backbone I was not able to get because I think it went out of print.
Devil's Backbone is still really good.
But that's really good.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to dump it and get this one thing.
For sure.
Because it's just great.
It's fantastic. It's nice packaging too. It's a very unusual. They decided to really do a very different thing. It's custom packaging, but it's a square package.
Well, it's weird because it might fit a little awkwardly in your shelf.
It will definitely fit awkwardly in the shelf. There's no question about it. But I don't care. Then I'll always know where to pull out the Del Toro. What We Become, DVD and Blu-ray combo pack of a film by Bo Mikkelsen. To my knowledge, no relationship to Mads Mikkelsen. This is from IFC Midnight. Kind of another variation on the zombie theme. Family moves into a suburb, and then the neighborhood is like quarantined on lockdown because of a plague, which turns out to be much more than just a plague. Perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable, well done. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering. I hate to keep saying that, but for some decent scares, it is well done and pretty decent. And then we also have Waxwork and Waxwork 2, Lost in Time, on a double feature. These are a couple of old Vestron. Remember Vestron? Vestron in the early days?
Yes.
These are from the Vestron library, which we're going to start seeing more and more of. Lionsgate has put them onto a Blu-ray double feature. And Waxwork 2, as is mostly the case with these kinds of films, not really anything to scream about. Both of these have audio commentaries with Anthony Hickox and Zach Galligan. But Waxwork is really what you're getting this for. And Waxwork is one of the most interesting horror films of its kind from the 90s, when a lot of this stuff was really waning. You came out of the 80s with the Charles Band stuff and the what with like all the Gremlins knockoffs, Ghoulies and all that stuff, and Leprechaun. So that particular era gave us an awful lot of junk. And Waxwork is not really junky. Waxwork is pretty cool. The whole idea of that it's beyond House of Wax. Interesting, really interesting film. Well done. So nice to rediscover some Vestron stuff. And I love it when the Annapurna logo references the Vestron logo.
I know.
That's so cool.
Also, the A24 logo has that kind of throwback.
It does.
Look to
it does a little bit. The off-registered colors.
Yeah.
And then we also, and before now we're really going to get into some fun stuff here in just a moment. Dark Angel, The Ascent. This is a movie with which I was previously entirely unfamiliar. This is another full moon entertainment, full moon feature thing from the Charles Band Factory, and completely off my radar. But it's pretty surprisingly well done, actually. The idea is you have a woman who is a demon who comes up from hell to. Let's put it this way: this is like the reverse of Wings of Desire. Does that make sense?
Wings of Desire.
Okay, this is the reverse. She comes up from hell and wants to live among us. And then, of course, there's, she has a relationship with a guy, and he finds out who she is, and yada, yada, yada. We fill it in from there. So, I mean, it would normally be kind of a silly horror myth done low-budget style, but somehow everything that Charles Band touches or produces for others in that Corman-like way winds up kind of being sort of cool and indelible in a certain way. And this is on Blu-ray from Full Moon Features, and I have a hard time really disliking this. I think it's actually kind of cool. So it comes with a couple of special features, trailers for other Full Moon films, and the original video zone. Mark. You okay?
Yeah, I know last week I said that I was getting better. Yeah, I have to admit, I have not been coughing as much as
good for you.
As I was in previous weeks, which means that I might live. Unfortunately for the listeners of the show, I might live. Wade, somehow Child's Play wound up being this multi-film phenomenon.
I don't know why.
There's the original Child's Play, there's Child's Play 2, there's Child's Play 3. It's just enough. And then, the original Child's Play from I think it was in the 80s. Wasn't Child's Play in the 80s sometime?
Yeah.
1988.
Yeah.
It was cute because at the time everybody was into Cabbage Patch Kids, and now it's all video games, but people were into Cabbage Patch Kids, standing in line forever. Here comes Chucky, this doll who's going to stab you and beat the crap out of you, and it was just really it was just kind of, it was scary, but it was also kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the original Child's Play is a lot of fun, and the thing with a lot of the films we're talking about today is that they're not really fun. All they want to do is just be filled with dread.
Yeah.
And that's the experience you should take from it. But something like Child's Play had a lot of energy, and it had some, and it was pretty well made, directed by Tom Holland.
Sure.
But it was kind of like fun in a way. It was kind of clever, and that was sort of a different vibe for films at that time. It also, by the way, stars Catherine Hicks. Now, Catherine Hicks played the mom.
Nice.
She was in Star Trek 4.
Yep. She was also the star of Tucker's Witch, which needs to be on DVD.
She was also the star of Seventh Heaven with the guy from Star Trek, the motion picture, who fondled little boys.
He was ahead of his time.
In fondling boys?
In just making sex scandals.
Exactly.
He was the original... I guess Schwarzenegger was the original groper, wasn't he? Yeah.
He had a whole other family. Anyway, so the whole idea with Child's Play, if you don't know it, is that there's this kid. The kid wants to buy this new doll. Doll's $100. So the mom buys a cheap knockoff doll. And, of course, once the cheap knockoff doll, Chucky, is home, he's, around adults. He doesn't say much, but then he winds up striking up a friendship with the kid. And, so then Chucky, of course, he winds up eventually getting a little bit more violent. He's got a claw hammer. Right? He likes to use it.
Yeah.
And and a knife, he likes to use that too. So I think it's well-made stuff. It was cute. The sequels were crap, but this one I think is cute, I have to say. And this 2-disc set from the good people at Scream Factory. We were just saying on Facebook the other day how much we enjoy Shout Factory, and by extension that would also include Scream Factory. There's a new audio commentary with Tom Holland, which is good. There's a new 2K scan of it, so it looks about as good as it's ever going to get, considering it's old and low budget. So I would definitely check out Child's Play. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. So exploitation maestro Joe Sarno is now his old films are finding a home at the Film Movement Classics. With the Film Movement Classics Library. Joe Sarno, we're going to talk more about his films momentarily, but in the 60s and into the 70s, he made a lot of really interesting kind of sexploitation stuff. but not the usual just kind of grindhouse fare. I mean, he really there's something very interesting about it. He somehow found a particular genre, feel, style, and made it all his own. And these films do have a certain fascinating aesthetic. Double feature here of Vampire Ecstasy and Sin You Sinners, made 10 years apart. Sin You Sinners is the earlier film from 1963, which is basically about a stripper who stays young because she has a magic voodoo medallion, and then the medallion is stolen, and all hell is unleashed. Which is it's okay, it's fine. The more interesting film is Vampire Ecstasy, which is about some women who are looking to claim an ancient ancestral inheritance, and wind up bumping into some really nasty witches with a pretty nasty idea on their minds. That is actually very spooky, very well done, has a kind of a Wicker Man feel to it, and is worth checking out. Both of those, they're on a double feature Blu-ray from Film Movement Classics. And then it wouldn't be Halloween if we didn't have a Lucio Fulci movie or something from the Giallo realm. And we do, in fact, have a 3-disc limited edition from Blue Underground of Lucio Fulci's Manhattan Baby. This is an archetypal Lucio Fulci movie, kind of an archetypal Giallo film in many respects. It is... It is exactly what you would expect if you've ever seen a Lucio Fulci film. They go to town on this thing, loaded up with extras, all kinds of featurettes, and interviews with just about everyone who had anything to do with this movie. It's rather amazing. There's even a live studio performance by Fabio Frizzi of the Manhattan Baby Suite. They load this thing with everything. The story is actually not bad. It's one of the better Lucio Fulci stories about a girl who receives this kind of amulet while visiting Egypt, and it has a curse on it, and then they bring it back to New York with them, and it wreaks havoc with them and the city. Really one of the more interesting Lucio Fulci films. I got to give him credit. So Manhattan Baby, 3 discs, a limited edition on Blu-ray from Blue Underground. It also has a DVD on here. Really very interesting.
Wait, I was reading an interesting article about The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which of course is I just love this movie.
It's a great movie.
This is one of the great films of...
One of the best remakes ever, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just try to... It reconceptualizes. It makes it its own.
It's like Ghostbusters did.
Yeah, not so much.
I was reading about The Thing, which you already know we love, in Village Voice, because they wrote an article about the film in anticipation of this new Blu-ray release from Scream Factory, which I have to say, there's some new stuff here, which is great, but I don't know if you want to quadruple dip on this thing. But they were mentioning that when the film premiered in 1982, it was such a dud that John Carpenter was fired from his next gig, which was directing Firestarter.
Isn't that amazing?
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
So Carpenter was going to direct. Now, if Carpenter had directed Firestarter,
it would have been a much better movie.
That would have been terrific.
Yeah.
Better than Mark Lester.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else we can say about The Thing. We love this film. Really, it's just a function of whether you should dump whatever other version you have of it, and buy this one it's a 2-disc set. It's got a 2K transfer supervised by the DP Dean Cundy, who also shot Back to the Future, so he's a terrific DP. It's got a bunch of new interviews. You know, is the transfer that much better than the one that you have? If you really love this film and you can sell your old version, maybe you'd want to upgrade. Otherwise, you can keep the one you have. But either way, feel free to give whatever money you have to The Thing, because we love this film. So yeah, there you go. Short and sweet, because we already love this film.
Another Italian film from the director Luciano Onetti. It's called Francesca. This has this is just creepy artwork. Mark, describe the artwork to people.
Well, it looks like a woman who's holding Chucky in one hand and a bloody knife in the other, and it looks like she stabbed somebody.
Yeah, to take the doll away.
Is that right?
Well, it's what it looks like.
But see, she looks like. But the woman with the knife looks like a nanny. She looks older, like a mom or a nanny.
So here's the thing. This has all kinds of interesting little Italian film meta references in it, not just because, you have the name Visconti in here and so forth. But the idea is that there was a little girl who vanished 15 years ago, whose father is a very, very famous playwright. And now there's this serial killer who wants to just take out anyone in the city who is, quote-unquote, impure and damned. And so they're trying to sort of figure out, these detectives are trying to put the pieces together, and of course the suggestion here is that the little girl who disappeared 15 years before is back. So there's a very interesting angle to this. Yes, it's kind of a conventional psycho / serial killer movie, but it also has some really interesting nuances. The type that you don't really see necessarily in American horror films. You see them in European ones, and you especially see them in Korean ones. So, pretty interesting film. This is a nice collector's edition of Francesca. Comes with a Blu-ray, a DVD, a CD soundtrack, and a few pretty decent extras, including featurette and deleted scenes, and an interview with the principals. So it's worth checking out.
Wade, here's the situation.
Yep.
There's a film.
Oh, I know. There is. Somewhere.
Carrie is a Brian De Palma film. It was Stephen King's first novel. It was also Stephen King's first... It was also the first Stephen King book to be made into a film.
Sure.
He didn't have to wait 2, 3, 4 books in.
Did not.
Carrie, done. I would say that this is better than any other version on home video of Carrie that you have seen.
Yep.
So if you like this film, I would definitely get this version. I find it interesting that there's this trend now, and people have mentioned this on the Facebook page, of Blu-ray covers that are like high-quality
paintings. Yeah.
And His Girl Friday, I believe, the Criterion His Girl Friday that comes out, which I will be first in line to buy, that has like a black and white painting, I believe. But look at this one.
It's very interesting. Very nice.
The thing is that this thing has to stand for this thing is a document of the film. Whether you use the one sheet or you use whatever you're going to use, it stands as a document of what the film is about. So the idea that they would do this for any film, especially a classic like Carrie, is a little strange.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because this is terrific. It's got 2 discs. It's got a 4K scan of the original negative, which is great. The only thing it's missing, which it'll never have, is a commentary with Stephen King, which I would love to see. I know he was happy with the final outcome. So the audio quality here is pretty good. It's got 5.1 and a 2.0 mono track. It does the job, especially because it's a bit of an oral experience. The music is good. It's got effects in it, and so it could have used more surround activity, but still, I think it's good stuff. There's a new interview with the writer and the editor, not the writer, Stephen King, but some of the actors: Piper Laurie, who's still around, Nancy Allen, who's still around, Betty Buckley, William Catt.
Yes.
We forget that William Catt.
He keeps showing up in movies.
Yeah, Greatest American Hero. He was in this. He was the boyfriend kind of guy. So there's enough new stuff in here. It is a 4K transfer that if you have any other version of Carrie, you should go ahead and upgrade.
Nice. And Mark, let's finish it. Let's finish that, and then before I get into the really scary stuff here, because this is a movie I'm fond of.
Really?
Yeah, I am fond of this. Because John Boorman directed it, and damn it, I'm going to defend him until my dying day.
No, this is Exorcist 3.
Oh, Exorcist 3.
That was directed by William Peter Blatty, the guy who wrote The Exorcist. You know what? So William, or maybe
Exorcist 2, The Heretic. That
was
the
the one that
love.
Everybody hates more than life itself, and you love for some reason because you're an idiot.
Oh, well, Exorcist 3, that's the Blatty thing. That's no good.
No, see, here's the thing. You love films that other people hate just because you're like some weird... Like, you love Star Trek, the motion picture, which everybody hates. You love The Exorcist 2, which everybody hates. You're out of your mind. Yeah,
well, okay. So Exorcist 3, well, I don't think I've ever actually seen The Exorcist 3. So why don't you tell me if it's worth it?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Blatty, look, Blatty, he's pretty much made a career out of The Exorcist, and... The Exorcist 2 was so bad, but yet people still had an interest in Exorcist 3. People still wanted to make the film.
Crazy.
And so, he wrote the film, and Friedkin was not going to direct it. So it just became like Blatty's thing. I don't know who would say, you know what, you wrote the book, you should direct a film.
Yeah, they did that to Stephen King a couple of times too.
I mean, the thing's like it had like an $11 million budget. That's a lot of money to give to like a writer.
Well, anyway, it's if I recall, this was kind of an afterthought of a movie that kind of killed off the franchise until they tried to resurrect it with what wound up being the dueling Rennie Harlan, Paul Schrader.
That's right.
Film. Which to this day I think is just one of the strangest things ever that you have.
The strangest situations where.
Well, you have two completely different cuts from two completely different directors of
the same movie.
The same movie that it's very weird, and both of them exist in the world. It's very strange. It's very strange. Anyway, is it worth checking out? Exorcist 3?
No.
Okay. All right. So much. Fair enough. Good. Oh, I guess unless you're confused.
Here's a horror film right here.
That's right. So we're going to wrap out with 4 documentaries that are either terrifying or that have terrifying titles or that have something even nothing to do with Halloween, but there's an excuse, like Breaking a Monster, which has nothing to do with monsters. But we're going to mention it just because it has monster in the title. This is actually a really sharp little doc. It's kind of like a teen rock and roll Hoop Dreams. It's about this 6th grade metal band, and it is a good, solid little doc following these 3 kids. They're really good. They're really talented, and director Luke Meyer and his co-writer, producer, partner Brad Turner do a really, really good job of telling this story in a sensitive way that doesn't feel like reality television. Then we also have Zika, Ebola, and Beyond. Spillover. This is a PBS documentary. It will scare the daylights out of you because you will realize exactly what all of these horrible tropical illnesses are all about. And, yes, we get to sort of live in the first world in convenience and not have to worry about it. But, man, when you get really close to the ground, it is terrifying. Here we have a documentary called Being Canadian. And I mention this only because Canadians scare me. They terrify me. They are an absolutely evil, demonic spawn species that lives up there on our border, and we are terrified of them. We are terrified. That's why we want to lock the That's why I want to close the borders, because we don't want them coming over.
Damn right.
That's it.
Because they talk funny.
They talk funny. They say things like a boot instead of about.
They're America's hat.
Anyway, so yes, those terrifying Canadians, they're all over this thing. Dan Aykroyd and Malcolm Gladwell and Paul Schaefer. Didn't even know that Paul Schaefer was Canadian. I don't like him anymore.
Really? You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that. Seth Rogen, didn't know he was Canadian.
I did not know that.
Yep, Catherine O'Hara, I knew that. Eugene Levy, Martin Short, obviously knew that. I keep seeing Martin Short at the grocery store. It's very strange. Howie Mandel, did not know that he was Canadian. Did you know that William Shatner was Canadian?
I did.
I think everybody
yes.
knows that. All right. And then lastly, Mark, it's election season. What would it be without an absolutely terrifying documentary like
Hillary's America? It's not terrifying. It's just Dinesh D'Souza he's like the Michael Moore of the right. He just does whatever he wants, says whatever he wants, and everything equals to Hillary's the worst thing that ever lived.
Well, I include this because after your Exorcist 3 bit, read the quote at the bottom of this.
Utterly terrifying and based on a true story, William Peter Blatty,
yeah.
Author and producer of The Exorcist.
Which I guess is there because we're supposed to imagine that Hillary's head turns around. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was hysterical that William Peter Blatty is quoted. That's your pull quote for the cover of Hillary's America.
I mean, like slave owners lament. Come on,
yeah.
Man.
Anyway, it's there. It's there. It's in the world. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Bill Clinton thing. The doc by what's his face, Harry.
Harry.
You weren't here, but we talked about Harry Bloodworth Thompson.
Oh,
Harry
yeah.
Thompson, the hunting the president about the alleged conspiracy to bring the Clintons down. Everybody's got a documentary in this season. But
Dinesh D'Souza's like it's like Michael Moore. You already know what you're getting. I mean, what are you going to? I mean, if nothing else, I have heard Michael Moore criticize Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Dinesh D'Souza would never criticize Donald Trump.
You know what? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to focus on movies, man. So that's it. We will be back next week, and start putting it on your calendar. The week of Thanksgiving is going to be our annual holiday show. We're going to have all kinds of fun interviews and features and other stuff. We've been too long in the past, so we're going to try to make this show nice and tight for you so it doesn't really blow out your Black Friday week, and you have just some idea of what you want to get, what you want to ask for, what you want to get for others. So it's going to be the week of Thanksgiving and Black Friday that we do our big annual holiday show and gift guide. Look for that. Put it on your calendars. It's just a few weeks away. And in the meantime, remember, we have a giveaway, Phantom of the Theater. Terrific Chinese haunted theater movie. Send us emails to gods@digigods.com with theater in the subject and your name and address in the body of the email. And 4 lucky people, as long as you get us your emails by the 28th of October, we will get this out to you. So otherwise, have a great Halloween.